We don't need to ask for directions. Come on, just get off my back.
You know what I hate? I hate it when men's behavior is automatically judged as being immature, insensitive, incompetent, narcissistic, childish, or some other label that's just easy to spit out. When really all that's needed is to take some time and understand some of what men are doing. And there's probably not a better example of that than the whole deal about asking for directions. Now, asking for directions things, I mean, think about it. Really, first off, not all men don't like to ask for directions, and a lot of them don't. But secondly, whose business is it anyway if he doesn't want to ask for directions? Give it a rest. But let's look at what happens when men have a hard time asking for directions. Why on earth would they possibly do that? In order to understand that, you need to understand what's beneath it, rather than just judging real quickly and saying, "Oh, he's incompetent. He's got his ego's too big. He's so machismo. He's got a blah 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 blah." Rather than do that, why don't you take a look first at what's going on underneath the hood? And let's do that right now. So, what's going on with men's not wanting to ask for directions? You know, the first thing is that the evolutionary folks tell us that men, when they were thousands, hundreds of thousands of years ago, when they would go out to hunt, the one thing they had to do was know their way home. If they couldn't find their way home, they were dead. So that's an interesting little aside to that. But even more important for us today, what happens when men ask for directions? It's very simple. They become dependent. You become dependent upon someone else for the answer. And what most people don't realize is dependency for men is very, very dangerous. Because as soon as you seem to be dependent, you get judged very, very harshly. And we know now from research that this is the truth. You know, this is fascinating research that was done on leadership and leadership in business. And what they did was they took leaders and they had some ask for help and some not ask for help, both men and women. What do you think they found out? What they found out was that the women, when they asked for help, it did not impact people's judgments about their competence or incompetence. You can see by this graph here that the women's graph stays exactly the same. No matter if they asked for help or not, they stayed the same level of competent in people's eyes. But look at what happened with the men. Men were considered competent, much more competent, if they did not ask for help. If they did ask for help, look what happened. They went down and were seen as incompetent. So men in general, if they appear dependent in just about any way, they go down in estimation in people's eyes. Think about the whole idea of precarious manhood, which is another research-driven idea about how men are judged every day to determine whether they're men or not. Judged every day to determine whether they are actually a man. For women, it's not the same thing. For women, once they hit puberty and their body matures, they are considered women, period. But not so with the boys. The boys are not considered men until they prove it, and in fact, they have to prove it just about every day. They have to prove that they're, quote, men. And if you look like you're any way dependent, what happens? Boom, you go down. You look awful. Now, there's more to it than this research and the precarious manhood. There's a thing by a fellow named Peter Marin, had this beautiful quote which describes this problem precisely. And here's the quote right here. To put it simply, men are neither supposed nor allowed to be dependent. They're expected to take care of others and themselves, and when they cannot or will not do it, then the assumption at the heart of the culture is that they're somehow less than men and therefore unworthy of help. An irony asserts itself. By being in need of help, men forfeit the right to it. Think about that for a while. If men appear dependent, they are considered less than men, and people who are considered less than men are not considered deserving of help. Is it any wonder why men try and appear independent? I mean, think about your own self. When you see a group of dependent men, a group of homeless men, what's the first thing that goes through your mind? What goes through your biocomputer? Ooh, right? You want to stay away from them. But if you saw a group of homeless women, would you have the same reaction? Probably not. Now, this whole dependency thing stretches far from just being asking for directions. It goes all kinds of places. Think about it. This is exactly why men don't want to jump into therapy. Why? Because if you go to therapy, you're depending on someone else. You're saying someone else should help you. You know, that means you're less than independent. You are dependent. So, of course, men don't want to go to therapy. It goes against their grain and they get judged very, very harshly in the long run, which women cannot understand. They do not get it. They probably will never get it. Just like I'll never understand what it's like to be in a woman's body and to know that your body is desired by lots of different people. I've pondered that before, and I cannot get it. And women can't get this either. The whole idea about men and their avoidance of dependency. So think about it, ladies. There's this psychiatrist in Australia, and he did some fascinating work on stress. And one of the things he found was in couples, when the man gets depressed or dependent, he loses his job or whatever, the woman will attack him. So if the man shows dependency, the woman will attack. What in the heck is going on there? And what he says is going on is that the woman's trying to see if he's going to be able to take care of him or of her and the kids. Because for thousands of years, it's been the men who've been the caretakers and the protectors. And if that man ceases to be able to do that, then she needs to go someplace else and find someone else who's going to protect her and care for her. So she attacks him to see if he can attack back. If he attacks back, then things are pretty good. If he doesn't attack back, she's got to find somebody else. So this leaves me wondering how many men have been in relationships where they've been attacked by the woman in their lives, and they attack back harder than she does, and then they go to jail. Probably quite a few. And what the woman was doing to begin with was just seeing if he could kind of take care of her and the kids, and it gets translated into misery for everybody. What we can see fairly clearly is that men have a lot of reasons to try and not appear dependent. And these reasons that they have only impact men. So it leaves women not really understanding a lot of times. But let's think about this just a minute. What happens with men when they do become dependent? What happens when they have to be dependent? Look no farther than a marital relationship when the man gets sick. I don't know about you, but what I've heard over and over again from women is, he's such a baby. I can't stand when he gets sick. He's a whiner. He's a helpless baby. And she tells her mother, she tells her friends, she tells everyone that'll listen what a whiny baby he is. So wait a minute, when the guy, he avoids being dependent and looking dependent anytime he can, but when he has to be dependent, when he's completely sick, what happens? He gets shamed for being dependent. So guys get it both ways. One, they get judged for not asking for directions. They can't be dependent, and then they get judged for being dependent. So which way are you going to turn? Anyway, ladies, we need to ask you to understand that men have it different from you. And men, please know that the world has a gynocentric addiction to passing judgments upon you. That's probably not going to change anytime soon. So what we need to do as men is to pull our center of gravity in and to believe in ourselves and to start deciding for ourselves when it's okay to be dependent, when it's okay to be independent, and to know that the way we decide and the way we are is going to be just fine. Because you, sir, are good the way you are. Because men are good. Oh, subscribe, like, comment, all the rest of that stuff. Come see me on Patreon. I can use your support. We'll see you.